everyone. I was just wanting to shoot a video to y'all today to kind of explain the whole handwriting process that happens in kindergarten this year. Our new reading program, handwriting program, is called Orton-Gillingham, or short for OG. And it is very, very important that you guys and myself are on the same page when it comes to handwriting, because if not, then it's really gonna not work out best for your child. If you're on one page and I'm on a different page, it's really going to confuse them, especially in the way that they form their letters. And I was gonna go ahead and kind of introduce some of the things that we use in here for OG. To start off with, in every child's binder, I have put a piece of paper that looks like this. This is the way that the letters are formed, front and back. There's uppercase and lowercase. And another thing with that is uppercase letters, we have to make sure that we call them capital letters. And so this way that you can be familiar with the terminology that I use in here, that way you can use it with your child at home. So the big letters are going to be capital letters, and the little letters are going to be lowercase letters. So that way you can be more specific with your child. And if you see me looking down, I've got a thing of notes over here. That way I know I don't forget anything. So to go ahead and start off with, I've got something pulled up here on the board. I'm fixing to take the tablet over there and let you look at it. You will not see me while I'm explaining it, but then I've got one that I drew that I'm going to show you. That way I can sit here and show you. But I'm going to show you kind of like what our paper is going to look like. Okay. There is kind of what OG's expectations are. It is the house template. And as you can tell, you can see there's an attic, there's a house, and there's a basement. Those are the three different terms that I use daily to make sure that your child is able to write their letters correctly. And if you see at the bottom, you'll see a capital C, and then you'll see a lowercase c. The lowercase letters can be written inside the house. The capital letters have to be written outside the house. So right there is the template that we'll be using. And you can get on the website or on Google and print one out at home. Or if you need one, I think I actually sent one home. So just let me know if you need one. Okay, I'm going to go back. Okay, all right, so here is the one I drew. I drew one, that way you can kind of see my terminology that I use in here. So, and it may be backwards, I'm not sure, I hope not. Anyway, I drew where the attic is, the house, and then the basement. I also added a few more terms that I use in here that kind of helps the students understand where their letters need to touch. Like the top line of the house is going to be the ceiling, because if you look up, the very top is called the ceiling. And then the bottom of the house, in your house, you have a floor. So I call that the floor. That way they can relate it back to something in the real world. So there is the picture. There's the terminology. I'll leave it up for a second in case you want to see. But other than that, those are my main terms that I use. And for the dotted line, I normally just use dotted line because they understand that as well. So, and I always make sure I say do not go up in the attic. So I'm going to go ahead and start and kind of go over the things that, and the letters that we have done in the classroom so far. That way you will know how to correctly form those letters. Okay, to start off with, everybody forms letters a different way. But there is only one correct way to form the letters. And it will go by the paper that is in your child's binder. And I'm going to start off by doing the letters that we've already done in the order that we've done them. That way you can kind of correlate them together to see how they form them. This is also going to be able to help you go back with your child. If they're forming their letters incorrect, you need to stop them. Because the first letter helps out the second letter. The second letter helps out the third. The first letter helps out like the first 5. So if you cannot form the first letter correct, you're not going to be able to form the next ones correctly. That is why it is so important that you correct your child. Yes, it may look right, but did they form it right? So I'm going to go ahead and start, and I'm going to use the terminology that I use with the kids. That way you can kind of see how I teach to them. All right, so the first letter that we studied was the letter C. And so whenever I study it with them, they will see this just like you see this. Okay? I always tell them we have to make the capital C. Capital C is the big C. And I correlate big and capital together, that way they understand it until they for sure get the word capital. But the capital C, and I start off by telling them the capital C will touch the ceiling and the floor. But to start the capital C, you will start just a little bit right below the ceiling. You will not start at the ceiling. You will start a tad bit below it. And so, but you have to make sure that the line touches the ceiling. So we will start up right here, and we will go up, make sure it touches the ceiling, and then we will come down and make sure it touches the floor. Just like that. That is your capital C. Your capital C should start at the top, a little bit below the ceiling. And make sure you're using these terminologies. The capital C will start up in the attic and go down to the house and touch the floor. Okay? Then we work on the lowercase c, and I tell them the lowercase c stays in the house. The house stays below the dotted line and in between the dotted line and the floor. If it goes up into the attic, it's wrong. If it goes to the basement, it's wrong. So that's why it's very important that you correct them if they mess up. So I will demonstrate the lowercase c now. And you can do this at home, and I normally practice it inside the house first and then outside the house. That way they understand that, hey, it's got to be inside the house. So inside the house, you're going to have to start just a little bit below that dotted line, right before the house starts up into the attic. And so you will come around and you will sit it on the floor, just like that. And so I'm going to do one right over here, that way you can understand. So we're going to start right here, a little bit below the dotted line, if you see my little mark I made. And then I'm going to come up, touch the dotted line, and come down and sit it on the floor. And then there we go. And another thing I wanted to mention is whenever you're making your letters, OG is really focusing on it being in a one motion, I cannot think of the word, but one motion to make the letter. It's not where you make it and then you pick up and then you put back to finish it. They do not want you to bring your pen off the paper until that letter is completely finished. So as a C, that one's kind of normal that you would not bring your pen up because you have to curve it. So a C is not really that difficult to do like that, but the letters that we're about to get into, you will understand why. So the C touches the ceiling, touches the floor. This is the capital C. The lowercase c, it stays inside the house, touches the dotted line and touches the floor. If they do not do this, fix it, please. So there's the C. And I'm going to kind of sit it aside here in just a second. I'll bring that back up just to show you what I'm talking about here in a minute. But the next letter that we did was O. So I have me and you board right here. So we're going to do the capital O. And starting with these letters that I'm about to do, it's very important that they know how to make that C, because all the other letters come from the C. If they make the C, they can make any other letter. So if they don't form the C correct, there's no way they're going to form all these other letters correct. So here's what I'm talking about. The capital O, you start back in the C position right here, a little bit below the dotted line. So for that capital O, you would go up, touch the ceiling, come around, sit it on the floor, and look, what letter did I just make? A C. But I always make sure to tell them, leave their pen on their paper until it is finished. And so with that C, we would just go up and connect to make the O. Then, with the lowercase o, it's the same thing, but the lowercase o will be inside the house. So we're going to start a little below the dotted line. We're going to make like a lowercase c, if y'all can see that sits on the floor. And then all we have to do is just go up and connect it, just like that. Now I'm going to come over here and do another one, that way you can see. So I'm going to make a C and then just connect it to finish making the O. So we're going to start below the dotted line. I'm going to touch the dotted line, sit on the floor, and then come around and connect to make my O. Okay? So this is how the C correlates with the letter O. Okay, I'm going to lay that one right there, and I'm going to pick up another one. The next letter is an A. We're going to start with the capital A. And a lot of the kids get confused where you start at the bottom and just go up and come down, but that's not the correct way to form it. The correct way to form a capital A is you have to start at the ceiling. And I tell them to go at an angle, at a diagonal. You have to explain what that is before they even know what it is. You cannot assume that they know what a diagonal line is. You have to show them. So you start at the ceiling and you make a diagonal line toward the house and touch the floor. Then you go back up to that same spot that you started on the ceiling, and then you make a diagonal line to the other side and touch the floor. So right now it just kind of looks like a tent. And then you have to cross at the dotted line. Make your cross for your A at the dotted line. And make sure that they do not go outside the tent that we made, like for the A, the walls of the A. Because a lot of them want to go on the outside. But the correct way is to keep it on the inside. Now, the lowercase a is going to help you correlate the C into making this lowercase a. Just like this. I'm going to do it in the house first. That way you'll understand. So we're going to start just like we do with the lowercase c, a little bit below the dotted line. We're going to come up, touch the dotted line, come around, sit on the floor. We're going to connect it, and then we're going to touch the dotted line. My pen has never come off the board. And then you have to go straight back down. You cannot go to the side. So all I teach my kids is pull straight back down and sit that line on the floor. Just like that. So I'm going to do it right here. That way you can see. And I'm left-handed, so sorry if my hand stays in the way. So we're going to start right below the dotted line. We're going to go around, make a lowercase c. Then we're going to come up, connect it, and touch this dotted line. And then we're just going to pull straight back down and sit it on the floor. And there is your lowercase a. And that is how the C correlates with the lowercase a as well. If you cannot make a C, you will not be able to make a lowercase o or a lowercase a the correct way. So there's the A. And I'm going to move into the D that we did last week. So the same thing. The D will start at the ceiling. The capital D will